I am not American. I am Russian. It was actually my father who relayed this story to me, so forgive me if I don't get it all right. I am going to tell the story in first person from his perspective to make it easier to understand. I want to tell it exactly how he told it to me. Back in the 1990s, I was diving on the Gulf of Finland. I was just preparing all of my gear for the dive and ensuring that everything was in good shape. Diving isn't my job. I work as part of a crew on submarines for the Navy, which means I have specialized training. I was taught how to operate and maintain parts of a submarine and could fix things in a pinch. I like going diving as a hobby because it's a completely different feeling to what you feel when you're in a submarine. You feel more exposed, of course, but you also feel more free to explore. You feel like you have so much freedom to move around, and you can really take in the sights and actually interact with the ocean. I wanted to establish this context to ensure that you know I'm not some idiot who doesn't know what he's doing. The Gulf of Finland, where I was diving, you might not know, but it's very different to other bodies of water. It's very unique because it's quite shallow, with the average depth being only around 38 meters. The water is cold, freezing cold, and it has a low salinity. Because of this combination of factors, it means that the conditions in the water are perfect for preserving things that sink. Anything dropped overboard, valuables, sunken wrecks, it's good for keeping them intact rather than eroding them and destroying them like other oceans do over time. The Gulf, it has lots of things underneath it. Some would call it a graveyard with how many ships have wrecked and met their end on these waters. One friend of mine, he is a sailor, and he told me a story about these waters. He said that one day, he was sailing quite a big ship with some friends. He does it recreationally, but also uses his vehicle for work. He is a fisherman by trade, but also does other jobs on the side. Once they reached the waters of the Gulf, the weather took a sudden turn. Heavy rain started pounding down on the deck. Land was not in sight, and there was not any action they could take other than to brace and weather the storm. He literally could not see anything because of the visibility. He would have been taking a huge risk trying to navigate back to any nearby land and would have gotten killed undoubtedly. My friend, he told me things got really weird the further he sailed on the Gulf. He said that even though the rain was coming down pretty heavily, at one point, all the sound of the rain just stopped. He said it was like someone hit the mute button on the television. He could feel these drops vibrating the deck. He could feel them hitting his skin, but there was no sound at all. He tried to call out to another friend on board, but when he did, no sound came out of his mouth. He started tapping people randomly to get their attention, and they realized it too. People were freaking out, and the situation was not good. The absolute worst thing that you can have on a ship in harsh conditions is a crew that is panicking. My friend tells me that after a little while of this, the sound just all comes back at once, but he doesn't just hear the rain hitting the deck. He starts hearing these heavy thumping sounds. Thump, thump, thump. One coming from the far end of the ship, one coming from behind him, and then he hears one from right next to him, and he sees that some kind of fish has jumped aboard and flopped onto the deck. Only, when he saw the fish, there was no way it could have been alive. Half of the skin on the fish looked to have been peeled off, along with the rest of it underneath. Half of the fish that was currently flopping back and forth on the deck was a skeleton. He freaked out and threw it back into the water and ran and checked the rest of the ship. Sure enough, the other thumps that he heard were the exact same thing, but different fish, but they all had skin stripped and peeled away, just exposing skeleton. He told me that he threw all of the fish overboard, and when he had thrown the last one, a strike of lightning came out of nowhere. It hit the mast and the wood caught fire. The people aboard were freaking out even more, trying to stop it from spreading and to save themselves. My friend said at this point he felt something really weird, like something in his body was telling him to just ignore the fire and look over the side of the ship. And when he did, he said he saw something big peeking out of the water, bigger than any fish he had ever seen in his entire life. But that part of the fish, like the others that flopped onto the deck, it was just a skeleton. He told me it opened its mouth like it was going to make a sound, but he did not hear anything. He just felt this vibration suddenly in his body, and it hurt him. He fell down to the deck. He could feel the vibration getting faster, and it was causing his heart to beat at the same speed. He could hear others wailing and writhing on the floor. He thought his heart was going to burst out of his chest, and then he just blacked out. He woke up the next day, back at the port he started at, like he never left. There was still visible burn damage to the mast, but somehow it had not spread. He could not explain how he got back or what he saw. That was the last day his friends ever accompanied him. It was also the last day he ever went out without a fully experienced crew. Sorry, I know that was long, but I wanted to give you an idea about the stories and why I was so excited to explore. I made sure I had all of my gear on and waded into the water and began my descent. The deeper that I went, the more the temperature dropped, and rapidly too. The temperature must have dropped to maybe 2 or 3 degrees, which is almost freezing. The visibility was horrible. I could barely see out in front of me, and the underwater flashlight I brought with me, well, it wasn't really helping. All it was doing was helping me spot the blizzard of sediment and debris that was kicked up in front of me. I was just trying to stay as close as I could to the seafloor in order to guide myself. I was using my light to scan it, and at some point, my light passed over something that immediately caught my eye, because the sediment where it passed over, it wasn't smooth anymore. There was something half buried in the silt that was jutting up from the seabed. Something solid and like an oval shape, I think. It was quite big. This oval shape, from what I could make out, it was some kind of a dull gray color. I say oval, but it wasn't exactly an oval. It was more like a cucumber, but much thicker, especially in the middle. It was gray, but it was caked in something. Seaweed and growths and algae stuck to the side of it and growing outwards. It had clearly been down there for a very long time. I swam closer to this object to get a better look. Visibility was still incredibly poor, and I was excited to find out what it was. I wondered if maybe it was some kind of relic lost overboard. Perhaps some kind of family heirloom or something. I was convinced it was made out of a type of metal. I placed my hand on the thing. It was huge. It made my hand look tiny. There was no way I could possibly pick this thing up. Even with the buoyancy of the water aiding me, this thing was much too heavy for me to lift. It was completely solid and wedged into the silt. No amount of pushing or touching would shift it, even an inch. So I had a light bulb moment after deciding that I was taking this thing back with me, no matter what. I was not going to give up. I resurfaced and went back to my truck at the shore. It was going to take some effort since I had to move back and forth, but I told myself it was going to be worth it. I grabbed this long rope from my truck and took it back down with me so that I could attach it to this thing. I made sure to loop it around the midsection and made sure it was fully secure. After that, I returned back to my truck where I had already tied the other end of the rope to the tow hitch. My idea was that I would use the truck to dislodge it so that maybe I would be able to bring it with me. I thought maybe it being stuck was why it felt so heavy. Best case scenario was my truck would help bring it a good way to me to minimize the amount of energy I needed to use. Somehow, it didn't work at all. No matter how hard I pushed the engine of my truck, it stayed firmly lodged there. I was upset. I wanted this thing. I wanted some kind of prize or trophy or something to talk about, a story to tell. Maybe I could even make some money. I decided screw it. I couldn't take it back with me, So what? I was going to open the thing up, right then and there. And so I went back with a pneumatic drill I had that would work underneath the water. I wedged my flashlight into the silt so that it would illuminate the thing for me without me having to hold it. I needed both hands free to make this work. I just started going for it and giving it my best shot. The drill was groaning and whining as it hit some resistance, but eventually I managed to pierce a small hole into the thing. I was immediately excited, thinking I'd done it, until something started seeping out of the inside. Some kind of a thick, dark liquid. I would say almost a pure black color. It looked like some kind of thick oil was spilling out of this thing. It was so viscous and started forming into these dark clouds, like when an octopus releases ink. The clouds, they had this strange effect. They seemed to be sucking all of the light away from my flashlight so that I could not see anything. The light almost warped to it, no matter which way it was pointed, and was completely swallowed. So I reached down and grabbed my light and tried to angle it closer to the thing. But it wasn't working. Within a minute or two, all the water around me was completely black, and I heard this sound. It was like a cracking sound, like someone cracking an egg, but 100 times louder. The water seemed to amplify it inside my ear, and I could not work out where it was coming from. It seemed no matter what direction I turned, the sound was suddenly coming from behind me. When I could next see in front of me again, I noticed that the hole that I pierced in this thing, it was much larger now, and I could see something just slightly. The entire inside was not visible, but I could see something inside that was translucent and shimmering. It looked like some kind of jelly-like substance, and I could see it wobbling. And there was something inside of it. Something floating inside this jelly-like substance, completely suspended. It was what I can only describe as some type of figure, shaped like a human, but clearly not a human. Its head had this kind of egg shape to it, but where a chin would be on a human, it ended in this mass of tentacles, as if someone took the tentacles from a squid and stuck them on a human chin. It had arms and legs, but they were completely different, not like ours at all. I think it didn't have any fingers or digits on the hand, just another mass of tentacles in their place, but different to the ones on the face. The body of the thing, it was like a milky white color. It almost seemed to be glowing in the faint light of my flashlight, almost like the light was going through the skin and then coming back out. It had these big, shiny black eyes, and it never once blinked. I stared for a while. This thing was in an upright position, like it was standing on solid ground, but it was just bobbing back and forth and not moving. And before long, I saw the jelly substance around it started to vibrate even faster, and I could see the thing inside twitching. I tried to start moving, but I did not even have time. This thing, it exited the substance and fully cracked the outer shell of whatever it was inside. It didn't even destroy the substance that it was in. It was like it just passed through it. It didn't phase through it like a ghost, but I'm not sure. It definitely went through it. I could see that black liquid from before. I think it was coming from this thing. I could see it leaking out of its upper arm, and it looked to have some kind of a puncture wound. It was just oozing out. And then out of nowhere, this thing just rushed towards me. It was like it walked through the water, but really quickly. Its legs just moved so rapidly, and faster than I could see, it was suddenly just close to me, face to face with me. I could not breathe. It was using the tentacles that were on its arms to restrict the air flowing to me. I was panicking. I knew I would not last long like this. It was using the tentacles on its face to try and remove my gear. I had to act, otherwise I would be dead, and I just acted automatically, on instinct pretty much. I still had the drill in my hand. I never dropped it. This thing, whatever it was, the length of it, it must have been 7 or 8 feet in length. I am only like 5'7" tall. It was so much larger than me. I just got the pneumatic drill and I turned it on. I'm not sure how it did not notice me holding the drill, but I just shoved it blindly into this thing. I had my eyes closed because I was so scared, but I felt a connection. I hit this thing in the same arm, but slightly lower down. The tentacles on its face recoiled backwards for a second, and I could feel all of the water around me, physically vibrating. I just kept trying to sink the drill in deeper and deeper, and I suddenly felt 2 sharp pains in my side. I saw the blood floating out of me. The tentacles on its arms, I don't know how, but they were penetrating my dive suit. This thing had just pierced through me with them, and he was sinking them into me. I knew I was going to die right then and there. I had nothing to lose at this point at all. My flashlight was nowhere in sight. I could not see the light coming from it anymore. I had no idea where it ended up. The only thing I could see was this thing right in front of me. I took the drill out of its arm, and I shoved it into its face, right where the tentacles on its face were. I could feel the pain getting sharper and sharper into my sides, and it was not giving up, even though there was that inky black blood oozing from it. And so I pulled it out, and rammed it with as much force as I could manage against the buoyancy of the water. And I must have stuck it deep, because it pulled its tentacles out of me and pulled away from me. When it did, the drill went with it and slipped right out of my hands. I did not stop to see how it reacted or what it did. I just swam as much as I could. I had so much adrenaline surging through my body, I was able to kind of ignore the pain in my side, at least until I got to the surface. I managed to get away. I'm not really sure how. I don't know why the thing did not follow me or anything like that. I wonder if it was too hurt or just decided it wasn't worth it. I managed to get back to the shore. I don't know how, but I got back to my truck. But I only made it as far as the door. I passed out before I could get in and start driving. I felt the pain all come back to me at once, and I felt my body become light, and all of a sudden, I just couldn't see anymore, and I was passed out on the floor. Luckily for me, this is not an unpopular area where I was parked up, so the people nearby, they saw me, thankfully. They came to help and took me to the hospital. I remember fading in and out of consciousness, and they tried to ask me questions, and I don't really remember what I told them. I think I mumbled something about the ocean and something down there, but I don't think I ever said anything coherent to them. Like I said, my vision was so blurry, and I went in and out of consciousness for quite some time. I'm not sure exactly how much time passed, maybe a day, maybe more. When I was finally fully conscious and came to, the doctors asked me what happened, and all I could do was just lie and say that I couldn't really remember, that I didn't know what happened. I told them I dove down to retrieve something and then felt some pain and surfaced and then passed out. I don't think they believed me at all. I mean, hell, why would they with the wounds that I had on my side? But to be honest, they never would have believed the real story either. I have told this story in my circles. Most people just laugh at me. The friend whose story I told earlier though, he believes me. He believes that the ocean has pure evil that no one is aware of. He is the only one that I can safely share these stories with. So, that was my father's story, which I changed a little bit to add context about him and other things. As a kid, I thought it was awesome. I took it at face value as a child, but as I got older, I started to think that maybe I had been duped. I asked my father about it again when he was older, before he passed away from lung cancer, and he maintained that it was the entire truth, even though I was an adult at that time, and not a silly little kid anymore. So, yeah, take this story as you will. My father says it's completely real, but I'm not sure what to think. When this story happened to me, I was spending the summer with my father in a cabin in the woods in Northern California, just outside of a Christian monastery located on a mountain in Big Sur, where he was working as a groundsman / maintenance dude / whatever you really want to call it. We leave the cabin at around 9 p.m. to get some food from the communal walk-in fridge on the monastery grounds. There are no lights along the path. I take a headlamp and a baton weapon. The cabin is right inside the edge of the woods. It's isolated from the rest of the grounds. It's only connected by one single path. The path is rather long and uphill, and to one side, it drops off pretty steeply into this thick wilderness, which is always pitch black. There is a high population of mountain lions in the area. At least one is regularly sighted on the grounds, which is the reason for the baton and headlamp. They hate bright lights in their eyes. It makes them back off. I am scared as shit walking up the path, as usual. At some point, I thought I heard these rustling noises in the bushes down off the side. I tell myself it's nothing, just to keep myself calm, but I keep the weapon ready and walk very quickly for the rest of the way. I made it to the fridge just fine. 5 minutes later, I'm returning from the walk-in fridge with the bag of food. I had forgotten all about the rustling noise by this point. I think I just convinced myself it was my imagination. As I reach the start of the path to head on my way back, I think I see my father at the end of the path, sitting outside the door, talking on the phone. I figure I will try and sneak down and scare the shit out of him. So I turn off my headlamp. My baton is in the bag with the food. I get down low to the ground and begin sneaking down the path as quietly as I can. I'm moving like this for at least a minute, not once checking around or behind me. When I'm about half of the way down, my father finishes his phone conversation and walks back inside. I stop moving. Something seems off. Everything is completely still. I am just struck by how silent it is. It's unnaturally quiet, almost as if there was a sound vacuum, or like there was a noise I had been hearing without realizing, which had halted a split second after my own footsteps had stopped. I stand up straight, and immediately I hear a rustling sound behind me, as if in reaction. The hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I whip around, just in time to see a low silhouette and a pair of glowing eyes slinking off the path into the brush, maybe about 30 feet behind me. This makes me seriously freak out. I dropped the food, switched on my headlamp. The thing was already in the bushes, way out of my sight. I took the baton out, holding it over my head, shaking. I started inching backwards along the path. I keep hearing it in the brush, pacing around. It's never more than around 30 feet away from me. Finally, I say screw it, and start running the rest of the way, which in hindsight was probably a little bit stupid. I do not look back until I'm at the door and fumbling with the lock. I glance right behind me. Just inside the brush, I can see two glowing eyes crouched down low. I am doubly scared now. My dad hears me fumbling with the lock, and he opens the door, scaring the shit out of me. I turn to look at him, then look back, and the thing is gone. To this day, I get chills thinking about this. I probably almost died. So, little backstory behind the story. I was 7 years old at the time, and my family had just divorced. My father moved to Burbank, California, and I would visit him now and then. He was living in a one-bedroom apartment with a kitchen and a bathroom. The whole thing was tiny as hell, and only was 3 rooms. My father is an atheist, and he does not believe in ghosts, but he's told me that this was the one time he second-guessed himself. Now for the story time. He has just moved into the apartment. Got it for an amazing deal. Apparently, the old tenants did not want it whatsoever. He is told by the neighbor the history of the apartment. Yeah, well, a couple of years ago, we had this college girl living there. She had pretty bad depression and all. Well, one day I came back from work and there were police here. She apparently blew her head out with a shotgun that she purchased a few days prior. I can't remember said girl's name. This was a good 12 years ago. I'm pretty sure it was Amber. Apparently, since then, people who move into that apartment get freaked out and leave. My dad does not believe him, and I never heard this, so why would I get scared? The first few months go by. There is nothing big, but my toys keep ending up in weird spots. My army men kept showing up in random parts of the house. My dad shrugs it off. I am 7 years old after all, so I must move stuff without thinking all the time. 2 months in, I start having really bad nightmares. I wake up my dad and would say, "There are shadows on the walls. They keep looking at me and they won't let me sleep." He is spooked, but like a good dad, he always calms me down and gets me back to sleep. One day he leaves for work and lets me play with my next door neighbors. The apartment complex allowed me to run between our houses so I can stay home with them. My dad comes home and hears my giggling coming from the bedroom. He walks in and my army men, bionicles, and Legos are everywhere. I start talking to someone who is not there and respond to words that no one is saying. My dad tries to shrug this off, but he starts to get a little creeped out. It's still fine though. I am 7, it's normal to have imaginary friends. My mom comes to pick me up later that week. She is still pissed at my father, as she believes that he left her for another woman. I am in the main room, watching some Ed, Edd n Eddy. It was the shit for my age. My mom knocks on the door, but I am so into this amazing show, I ignore it. My dad opens the door, and they begin to talk for a bit. Suddenly, my mom looks over towards the open bedroom door and starts shouting as she marches there. She heads straight towards the bathroom with conviction, angry as hell. She stops dead in her tracks as she looks into the bathroom. She walks back to my father, looking over her shoulder, silent as hell. By this point, I walked outside. She promised me ice cream, so I am gonna wait by the car. My mom takes this moment to explain that she saw a younger-looking woman poking her head from the bathroom. Thinking that was who my father left her for, she went to confront her, only to see an empty bathroom without any windows. My father thinks that she has completely lost it, but now he's getting kinda spooked too. Mentions how I've been talking to someone as I play. When I get back, he is going to ask me about my imaginary friend. We leave and my father heads back inside, but I come back 2 weeks later. I come back from my Little League game. Dad had picked me up from the game and got me dinner. My mom said her goodbyes and we went home. We get to the apartment, and my dad starts getting me ready for bed. I smile and wave to part of the house, making my dad a little bit more concerned. "Hey, buddy, who have you been talking to?" "The pretty girl, Amber." My dad nearly shits himself. No one ever told me about Amber. I was not around when he was told about what happened to Amber. I could not overhear anything mentioned about her. No one talked about her around me. My dad just smiles and says, "Okay," and gets me tucked into bed. He is shitting himself and stays up late that night, looking for a new place to live. I come out crying from my room, saying, the shadows won't stop looking. That night still spooks him to this day. The next few weeks had my nightmares get worse. By the end of the month, I've been spending more time with my mom, and my dad has been filling his free time with his new girlfriend. My dad is ready to book it at this point. At the same time, I actually can get sleep at my mom's. I never mention shadow people at my mom's house. My dad has been wanting to leave now and asks his girlfriend if we can move in. She agrees, and she allows us to move in soon after. I go back to my dad's apartment to help the best a 7-year-old can. He is putting boxes in the back of the truck. Everything has been cleared out except for the bedroom, where my toys still rest. I carry out my bionicles, which my dad found laying out on the floor. As we leave, I wave goodbye to the house. Never even return to that street. My family is not easily scared. We have had paranormal stories before, but this one just sank into me. I remember telling my dad about the shadows and playing with an imaginary girl. Creepy as hell. Regardless if it was dumb luck and weird coincidence, or if it was paranormal, I still refuse to see that house. I just have a gut feeling that I was being watched, and I did not notice it back then, but the Rottweiler that my dad owned never entered the bedroom. Hell, it whimpered going anywhere near there. I remembered all of this shit, and when I was 15 years old, he told me that Amber took her own life there. I am still not sure how to process this. I am not a trucker myself, but I had a college teammate from Miami tell me a story that he swears on to this day. He and his girlfriend were making the drive to Naples late night on a 2-lane road through the Everglades and had been in a line of cars behind an 18-wheeler for multiple miles. She fell asleep and he was surfing for something to listen to on the radio. Only one station came in clearly enough to be tolerable, so he gave it a listen. The DJ came on and said something along the lines of, "The stars are extra bright in the Everglades tonight. If you're driving through there, pull off and take a look." He said he normally would not even think of it, but for some reason, he felt compelled to that night. He woke up his girlfriend. She was annoyed and didn't want to, but he convinced her it would be worth it. They stopped and just took in the stars for around 5 to 10 minutes. He said it was the most amazing sky he has ever seen. They get back on the road and drive another few minutes and come across a massive accident. The truck they were following had jackknifed and took out a handful of vehicles that were following along. He said there were multiple fatalities, but I've never been able to find a news story to confirm. It probably would have been in 2005 or somewhere around there. They most likely would have been involved if not for that random DJ on the only radio station to come in that night.